This is the book of Luke 17, verse 26. It says, "And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down and take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall seek to lose his life shall preserve it." All right.
Is the statue of Lot's wife.
They found Lot's wife. Archaeological evidence confirms the Bible again, and the world is reeling. In a remote corner near the Dead Sea, something buried for millennia has just come to light, and it's sending shockwaves through science and religion alike. Even Tucker Carlson weighed in, calling it one of the strangest and most compelling discoveries of our time. Actual footage is now making the rounds online.
But there might be something in that metaphor that could tell us more about the catastrophe itself.
And experts are scrambling to explain what many believe confirms one of the Bible's most haunting stories. What was once dismissed as myth may now be standing tall in salt, staring straight into history. The forgotten city beneath the salt. Long before archaeologists brought cameras and excavation tools into the desert, the story of Lot's wife had already carved its way into human imagination. A woman fleeing a city on fire, warned not to look back, does exactly that and is frozen in time, transformed, according to scripture, into a pillar of salt. For centuries, people assumed it was symbolic, a moral tale to caution against longing for a sinful past. But what if it wasn't just symbolism? What if something physically remained? The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were said to be so wicked that divine fire was their only cure. Ancient texts describe a sudden catastrophe, one so intense that it erased entire populations overnight. Smoke rising, land collapsing, and ash covering what used to be homes. It all sounds mythical, but the curious thing is, people have been searching for these lost cities since antiquity. Roman writers, Islamic geographers, and even 19th century Christian explorers all believed they could find remnants of this biblical disaster somewhere near the Dead Sea. And it makes sense. The region is one of the most geologically unique areas on Earth. It sits in a deep rift, the air is thick with minerals, and the land itself seems scorched and sunken. Near the southern basin, there's an eerie silence, broken only by wind rustling through crumbling cliffs made of salt and stone. Here, strange formations appear on the horizon, including a massive salt mountain known as Mount Sodom. Its name alone carries centuries of speculation, but it's what lies within and around that mountain that has attracted renewed interest. Not long ago, a new generation of researchers returned to this ancient terrain, not as religious pilgrims, but as forensic scientists, geologists, and archaeologists. Their goal wasn't to confirm miracles, but to trace seismic activity, test mineral layers, and model ancient climates. Still, even they couldn't ignore the stories. And as their instruments probed deeper into the earth, something began to surface. Evidence of extreme heat in the soil layers, the presence of naturally occurring sulfur balls, and a pattern of destruction unlike anything explained by natural erosion alone. There were even strange voids beneath the surface, air pockets where it looked like ground had collapsed rapidly, perhaps violently. The researchers found burned sediment layers interspersed with unburned ones, suggesting a rapid and chaotic event rather than a slow geological shift. Even the air, they reported, felt denser, heavier, as if it carried the weight of history. Still, no one was talking about Lot's wife yet. The idea of finding her, or any human trace tied directly to the story, seemed laughable to the scientific community. What could possibly survive thousands of years in such conditions, especially in salt, which corrodes and crumbles? But others, particularly those watching from religious and historical circles, weren't so quick to dismiss it. They had seen strange things in this desert before. And the truth is, many of the most significant biblical sites, once dismissed as myths, have been gradually corroborated by archaeology. Jericho, Hazor, Nineveh, all cities mentioned in Scripture, unearthed one by one. So now the focus shifted to the least understood of them all, Sodom, or what might remain of it, buried under a crust of minerals and layers of silence. No one could say for sure where the city once stood, but Mount Sodom had become the center of attention for reasons beyond its name. Because something had been found there. And this time, it wasn't just another salt pillar. It was something else entirely. Something shaped like a person. Something preserved more perfectly than anyone thought possible. But before we reveal what they saw when they
Here is
All right, Shalom. Shalom. I want to give all praises, glory, honor, and power that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashim Kakadash. Double honors to the elders, the apostles at Great Millstone, those who rule well and who I learned this truth from. And salutation to the brothers stiffly pushing this one truth in all sincerity and diligence, risking both your lives and freedoms to do so. Shalom to the rest of the elect as we all await the second Exodus coming quickly by the hands of Lord Yahweh Shah. This is your brother Archaeological. All right, back at you again with another lesson. All right, they found Lot's wife. All right, let this be an example to us all, okay? They found Lot's wife, all right, and that's the spirit, this pretty much coming out, or at least I call wind of it, around the time of, June, which is their Pride Month, and this is pretty much when you go into Sodom and Gomorrah, was destroyed with that fire and brimstone. Okay, those five cities was destroyed due to that pride, man, and due to the lewd activities that was taking place. Okay, which really is the same judgment we know that is coming to America, Babylon the Great. Okay, but ultimately want to do this lesson because, hey, man, remember Lot's wife. All right, and the point being is that anybody who seeks to save their life, all right, and you look back and want to save your life on this side, you're gonna lose it, man. And the Lord, leaves archaeological, evidence and examples of these events in the scriptures, all right, because he wants to, he leaves examples of these things, man. Okay, because contrary to what a lot of you people believe, man, the Bible is alive and well, man. All right, and these are historical facts and things that occurred. All right, and I believe, they were going to do it's a part 2, and I went to the comments to try to find a part 2, but the first part was, long enough, and I went to part 2, and it was really a repeat. So, ultimately, they have to wait for it to drop. But ultimately, man, they found, the pillar, the salt pillar of Lot's wife, which we know scriptures say. Matter of fact, let's go back to Luke 17. All right. And 28, it says, likewise also as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built it. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down and take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it. And whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. Because the point is that when you look back and you had that spirit of you missing out, and you want to continue, partaking and enjoying, being in the world, being a carnal, fleshly, person, you're going to die here, man. That's why scriptures say, remember Lot's wife, because she looked back and, I'm doing this lesson because they found the statue, man. They found the pillar of salt she was turned into, which the Lord preserved that. Because even in this video, they kind of made it like even over thousands of years, they kind of find it, that it's a mystery how it was, preserved. But, hey, that's the Lord doing that, man. They found sulfur over in that region, that Dead Sea region, which all lines up with the account of what happened, man. Okay, because she looked back. She ultimately she wanted to she was still tied and attached to what she had grew up in, man, to that society. See? Well, that's why the Lord, man, he calls for you to what? To depart from this place, man. To come out of this place, man. Spiritually, all right, you must detach. Okay? Because if you don't, if you seek to save your life on this side, man, you ain't gonna make it, man. Okay, and we see that with a lot of people, a lot of Negroites. I'm gonna just call it like that because they're not really in the truth because they're still attached to the world and the things the world has to offer. Meaning, when this shit's going down, when this shit really finally hits the fan, which we pretty much in them times, man. But when this shit fully goes down, they're gonna be trying to preserve their lives, man. A lot of Israelites that know they're Israelites, whatever the case may be, they're gonna take the chip because they're gonna want to try to preserve some type of semblance of their lifestyles, man. Okay, but that's why the Lord leaves accounts like this, man. Remember Lot's wife, because you ain't gonna make it up out of here. You see that? I'm gonna grab the account real quick. This is Genesis 19. We'll jump to the point, verse 15. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy two daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his two daughters, Yahweh being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. It says, and it came to pass when they had brought them forth abroad that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. So the angels told him to look not behind them, man, lest they be consumed. See, and when you spiritually, meaning don't look back, man. If you lose out on shit on this side, man. Careers, a woman. Opportunities, for the truth's sake, hey, don't look back because this is the only thing that can save your life, man. You look back and you go back into the world, hey, man, you're done for. There really ain't no other way to put it than that, man. And that's why there's accounts throughout the scriptures. All right, the Lord, Yahweh Shah told the disciples, hey, let the dead bury the dead, because a lot of these people, they're in a dead state of mind. Scriptures say he that wandered out of the let me grab this real quick, because a lot of these people are dead spiritually, man, mentally. Give me one moment. Proverbs 21:16, the man that wandered out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. See that? So that's why, let these people be, man. These people are for the world. The world has these people. They're consumed by this vibration. They're on a low vibration. They're from beneath. Let the dead bury the dead, man. These people are they're not going to get it, and the Lord is not going to save them. Okay. But it says, escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and has magnified thy mercy. It says, which thou shalt unto me in saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Let me get to the point. All right. Verse 24 says, Then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Okay? And that was the point. That's the spirit a lot of you Israelites have, man. That looking back spirit. And matter of fact, what proves that is like the elder, especially out there, the gym at South Carolina, the elder Manata Zagba, he does several lessons going into a lot of these Israelites who say that they don't want to be in the truth anymore. Why I left the truth, Christians and whatnot, because a lot of these people, man, they look back, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the strength, they don't have the endurance to continue in this thing, man. Because really they're just weak and the Lord ain't dealing with them, man. They get offended. They got friends in the friend group or whatever, and which really when we move around, we operate on like a Clark Kent type shit anyways, man. We don't just go out just, exposing our hand. But nonetheless, these people get offended, man, with their family. Their family may be, well, why don't you do this anymore? Or why can't you hang out and woo with certain things? And well, not to say you can't hang out with your family, but you certain things in the world you don't do anymore. And these people, these Minutemen Israelites, if you will, they don't make it, man. They can't endure it, and they look back, they go back into the world, which is ultimately going to lead to your death, man. See, this thing is serious. All right. And that's really the point. I wanted to do this brief lesson, man. Remember Lot's wife, because, a lot of you that look back, the Lord said, look, man, hey, I'd rather you be hot or cold. If you lukewarm, he's spitting you out of his mouth, man. Meaning he ain't fucking with your ass. And that's a lot of you. That's a lot of you jakes out there, man. You fucking think you think it's a joke. You want to play games. You know what I'm saying? You don't take it seriously. Hey, man, well, shit. Hey, well, look, man, and these coming short days, hey, all hands will be exposed, man. You know what I'm saying? The Lord's going to force your hand, and a lot of you motherfuckers ain't going to make it, man. You know what I'm saying? But that's really the point. Let this be a warning. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out. Give all praises to Yahweh Bashmiel Shah, DTA Wababa Ball, Shalom.